Hey, it's your old pal Lucid Stu again, and we're going on an adventure. We're going to try getting somewhere in Southern California using transit, which is often a challenging proposition, and then we'll compare that to driving. We're going to start in downtown Redlands, California at my nearest train station. It's possible to get there from my place 11 miles away in Yucaipa by 2 different hourly buses, but I wanted to be able to have this adventure take place all in the same day. I think most people in Southern California would have a similar experience where, as a practical matter, they would drive to a train station to kick off a trip like this. Chalk that up as an area transit deficiency. Redlands has what feels like a pretty safe parking structure. I just make sure not to leave anything in my car when parking. That way no one is enticed, and I feel pretty good about leaving it unattended for most of the day. Alright, we've got the beast parked and we're walking to the station, and hey, we're there! The setup in downtown Redlands is pretty nice. You have the station, the parking, and a few restaurants and other places all in one little compact area. The station has 2 platforms. This is the ground level platform, which is used by one Metrolink weekdaily commuter round trip into Los Angeles. This particular trip was taken on a Saturday, and I'll explain why as we go. The first thing we need to do is wait for the demented Jack-in-the-Box guy to finish buying his train ticket. You never know what you're going to get on Southern California Transit, and this was a perfect start to the day. On weekends, Metrolink has a cool deal where you can use the entire roughly 400-mile system all day for $10. That's one reason to just get out there on the train and explore. Figure out if there's anything to do around a stop and just go there like I did. As far as I know, every station has a ticket kiosk. They're pretty simple to use. Pick your ticket type, pay cash or credit. Credit transactions take a minute, but it's not a big deal. So that's done. I got to the station about 9 minutes before the train was supposed to show up. With traffic apps, you know when you're going to be somewhere down to the minute, so there really isn't any reason to leave a big buffer. Redlands Station is fun to use because it's the historic neoclassical station built in 1910. I definitely couldn't see this temple to transit being built now, but I'm glad someone had this gloriously wacky vision 120 years ago. This was 8 a.m. on a Saturday, so downtown Redlands was still pretty quiet, but the train station was busier than expected. I honestly thought I'd be the only person there. We'll head up to the second platform. This is a 550mm platform that facilitates level boarding on Metrolink's Aero service. Aero service uses Stadler Flirt diesel multiple units, which are a little different than a typical Southern California commuter train. These are popular regional and commuter trains in Europe, but you don't find them very often in the States. Just in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and here. We even have a hydrogen-powered one. I made a video about that. Go check it out. Metra in the Chicago area is also supposed to be getting some battery-powered ones in a couple of years. One thing that's different about these trains is level boarding. You walk or roll straight on, no steps. That makes them ADA compliant, unlike most trains in the United States. They also don't have a locomotive. The diesel engines are in the quote-unquote power pack in the middle of the train, and those power electric motors at the wheels of each of the cars. As we head out of Redlands, let me talk about the purpose of this new series. I don't think people consider using transit enough. Most people are probably in their routine of taking their car everywhere. In addition to the environmental problems caused by billions of people doing that every day, it also just gets old dealing with traffic and all the crazy driving behavior out there, and it's nice to take a break from that. One easy and fun way of getting into the habit of getting out of your car and onto transit is by taking a trip to someplace fun on the weekend. So I sat down, I started looking for things to do near train stations, I picked one, went and did it, and we'll see how the execution went. And right about now is when I started thinking that I forgot to lock my car, so that was a fun thing to think about all day. Make sure you're sure you locked everything up before leaving and save yourself some stress. Do as Stu says, not as Stu does. Aero service runs between Redlands and San Bernardino, which is about 7 miles. I clocked the train at 50 miles per hour in San Bernardino, but I think it goes a little faster in parts of Redlands. To continue on toward Los Angeles, you have to transfer to a regular Metrolink train at downtown San Bernardino. Aero is part of the Metrolink system, so my $10 weekend day pass covered both. I had a 9-minute layover at the downtown San Bernardino station on a directly adjacent platform. San Bernardino has 2 stations, this one and the one at San Bernardino Depot a mile to the west. I could have started the train trip in San Bernardino, but I'm not leaving my car at either of those places for an extended period. I chose to sacrifice roughly 15 minutes here to feel better about where I left my car. Alright, here comes Metrolink. Let's talk about what the plan was for this day. The Pomona Fairplex in LA County was hosting the Asian American Expo Lunar New Year celebration. On the way, I was planning to stop in Upland for breakfast, and then after that, back on Metrolink to the Metrolink Pomona North Station. From there, I was going to take the Metro A line one extra stop just to try it, then walk 1.5 miles to the Fairplex. Not exactly simple and convenient. On the way back, I planned to cut that walk in half by taking a Foothill Transit bus back to the Metrolink Pomona North Station, and then Metrolink to San Bernardino, and then Aero to Redlands. But let's get on this Metrolink train and see what actually happened. I was going to sit on the second level of these bi-level carriages, but we were going into LA cab car first, and I wanted to be facing forward to film out the window, so I went back down to the mezzanine level and ended up not taking any footage out the window anyway. Now that was a fateful choice, because it gives me an example of an advantage transit has over taking a car. You get an opportunity to meet interesting new people on the way. All right, man, it was good to meet you.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, we'll definitely contact on Instagram.
Yeah, for sure, man.
We'll make something fun for a day.
All right. Have a good day, man.
Have fun.
All right. So that was Mario you heard there. He noticed my GoPro, and it turns out he does social media content as well. Go check him out on Instagram at bellybuckets. He's a cool guy, does food reviews that are pretty funny, great production and editing on those. I can learn a thing or two from people like Mario that do shorter form content in terms of holding attention and production efficiency. We floated the idea of doing a Transit Foodie crossover collaboration. We'll see what happens there, but I had to get off the train in Upland and leave Mario behind. See you on that big, beautiful Instagram. Unbeknownst to me, Upland has a street fair every Saturday, and it was just kicking off when I got off the train. All part of the Misadventure. Let's go check it out. We've got all sorts of vendors down there selling their wares. You've got plenty of food. You've got blithely unaware children being reined in by their parents at the last minute. You've got it all. You've got greeting cards, plants, handmade soaps. You've got this guy. You've got clothing and beaded accessories. I used to be a picker in another life, so I eat this stuff up. It reminds me of the old days sitting around at one of these things hoping to God someone would buy something so I could at least cover the fee to rent the space. It was still pretty early in the morning at this point, so there weren't many people there. Attendance did pick up quite a bit later in the day. I was starting to get hungry at this point and wanted to head to the place I picked for breakfast. We will walk up 2nd Street and through Upland's historic downtown to get there. Same thing with 2nd Street. Patronage was a little sparse and not all the stores were open yet, but things got busier later. I'm going to eat first and then we'll explore downtown more later. From 2nd Street, we'll cut over to 1st on the Pacific Electric Trail. This is a rail right-of-way from the olden times before freeways, when the LA area had a pretty extensive electric regional rail system. Now it's a bike and walking path that extends nearly 20 miles from Montclair to Rialto. The western end is about 3 miles in the direction I'm walking here. It was getting plenty of use on this particular day with lots of joggers and bike riders out getting some exercise. There is also a public restroom next to the trail that was a lot cleaner than I expected it to be. Let's skip ahead and round the corner for Molly's Super. I saw this place on Google Street View and couldn't resist eating at a place that was converted into a restaurant from an old arts and crafts style house. Let's check it out. Molly's is a breakfast, brunch, and lunch place serving good old-fashioned American food, and you can't beat the setting. I had a Denver omelet, which was pretty good. Their service was great. They have the kind of service restaurants used to have. Your coffee ain't getting cold there, and they check in on you just enough without being annoying. I highly recommend this place. This is not a paid ad. I am not affiliated with them. I was just happy to go to a restaurant and get truly good service with halfway decent food for once. Across the street from Molly's are some fine examples of Upland's architectural past. Here we have a Spanish Revival style building. You could be forgiven for thinking you're in Santa Barbara here. This style and Mission Revival have exemplified California in architecture for as long as I can remember. Also across the street is the Shoe Building, which is the former Upland City Hall. An amazing example of Art Deco architecture. It's remarkable to me how thoroughly this style is able to capture an air of optimism as architects attempted to apparently will the world through the Great Depression. This stunning structure was finished in 1939. 30 years later, the Upland city government moved itself into this building, an interesting mid-century modern take on the Mission Revival style, creating its own version of California cool. That sort of approach wasn't uncommon at the time in California, but the execution here is better than most. Between the two city halls, you have the Carnegie Library and the Old City Fire Station. Those were built in the early 20th century. The library, of course, harkens to Andrew Carnegie, the Gilded Age industrialist and philanthropist that helped fund the construction of nearly 1,700 such libraries in the United States, which accounted for about half of all U.S. public libraries at the time. A couple of other buildings that caught my eye. Eden Garden Fusion Grill. This is another Art Deco gem that used to be the Lemon Growers Association headquarters back in the day. And the Cooper Museum, which is a very interesting fusion of Art Deco and Spanish Revival that used to function as the headquarters of the Ontario Cucamonga Fruit Exchange. If you didn't catch it, like most parts of Southern California, they used to grow citrus around here. Also, I couldn't resist featuring this stunning take on neoclassicism. You can't beat stucco, foam accents, and Doric columns. The chandelier is a nice touch. Now the citrus groves are gone and it's mostly suburban single-family homes. Downtown is a vestige left over from that time. Let's look at some establishments down there that I thought were interesting while we talk about it. About 20 years ago, a developer came in and wanted to remake the place in the same vein as 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica or downtown Brea. These are sort of Disney-fied versions of urbanism. Neither of those had access to rail until Metro ran the E-line out to Santa Monica in 2016. Upland didn't much care for that idea and decided to redevelop the place themselves. 15 years on, progress has been slow. It's a nice place to hang out with stores you're not going to find in a typical strip mall. It's not quite full service, lacking a grocer, and denser housing is a little sparse, so it still has a ways to go to qualify as a proper functioning urban unit. They've recently built these townhomes in the vicinity. They're going to fit about 30 in the same space that 8 or 10 small single-family homes would occupy. If you're not from California, just pretend that you didn't see the $500,000 price tag. Nearby Upland has some unfortunate plans to construct an oversized 5-story parking garage at the site of one of the city's parking lots. Downtown Upland is pretty walkable and bikeable overall, but there's honestly also way too much traffic rolling through the area. Some lady nearly ran me over not wanting to wait for pedestrians to cross the street. On the bright side, that parking structure will allow the city to develop some of its surface lots. If Saturday was any indication, the area definitely currently has more parking than it needs. The area also definitely has room to grow upward, especially around the site of the former depot and present station. The potential is there. We'll see how it works out in the coming years as municipalities are forced to build more dense housing by the state, and that is made easier in areas around transit stops. If you're planning to visit downtown Upland in this manner, the most useful gaps between train arrival and departure are either 2.5 or 5.5 hours. 2.5 hours is okay, but not a lot of time if you're wanting to browse everything. 5.5 hours is possible, but you really have to try to fill that amount of time. Metrolink frequency is supposed to expand a lot before the 2028 LA Olympics. In this case, one extra weekend midday eastbound departure would be nice. I pooped out after walking around downtown Upland 4 different times over the course of 2.5 hours. I chose to end my time there by heading into Penny Lane Record Shop, where I decided to start rebuilding my CD collection with 3 heavy metal classics. Their prices were good. I was happy to give them my business. After that, I headed back to the train station and decided I would skip the Fairplex. My feet were already tired and I didn't have another 5 miles of walking in me. So here's the train showing up right on schedule at 12:12. But wait, why is it heading to LA? Oh no, bonehead, you forgot to check the timetable for trips to San Bernardino. This was when I figured out that an 11:45 train back showed up while I was in Penny Lane. Next train back 3 hours later. While figuring all this out, I left the 12:12 train leave without me. So I wandered around Upland some more and took some crappy pictures before deciding to hop on the Metrolink 112 train west and see how far I could take that before needing to get off to catch the train back toward San Bernardino. Remember, this is a misadventure. To fulfill that, I ended up getting off the train at the Baldwin Park station, which is mainly park and ride with a big adjacent parking structure. I was getting thirsty, so I set out to find something to drink. The only place I could find was this taqueria. The lady at the counter didn't speak English, but somehow we got through the transaction and I had myself a soft drink and 24 nickels to show for it because that's what she gave me for change. I managed to get back to the station just in time for the next scheduled train east, but the rush was for naught since it was 10 minutes late. I boarded the train once more, which reeked of marijuana on the first level, so I headed up to the second level and proceeded to sit by 3 guys in their 20s that spent the next hour swearing. In combination with the drug deal that occurred on the train on the way to Upland, I can't say I recommend this for people with kids or the faint of heart. Maybe Metrolink should get its act together if it wants more people to use these services. I left the 24 nickels in the train cup holder as a tip, and I missed filming the most dramatic part of the trip, as everyone but me ran from our 8-minute late Metrolink train to the Aero train that was supposed to leave in a minute. However, the train did not and was never going to leave without us. Fake drama, unfortunately, left unfilmed. And then back to Redlands on Aero. As we depart the train there, let's compare the driving and transit tallies. On time, driving round trip would cover the 80 miles in 90 minutes. For transit, I have 40 minutes total to and from the train station, plus an hour each way on the trains, and a little bit of time at the Redlands station for 2 hours and 45 minutes total. Driving wins by an hour and 15 minutes. On cost, driving would be about $15 for gas and wear and tear with my car, which gets about 40 miles per gallon. For the train, it was $10 for the trains plus $2 driving back and forth to the station for a total of $12. Transit wins by $3. If you didn't have a car at all, transit would have saved you about $60 over total cost of ownership for the day, but then add 2 or 3 more hours for bus trips. Rideshare would have been something like $100 or more. Driving, of course, wins for convenience. I could have left Upland at any time with my car. Missing the train, I had to find something to do for 3 extra hours, which could be a big deal if you really need to be somewhere. But that's also probably not happening if you're paying better attention. Overall, I had a great time. I got to meet someone new. The street fair was a nice surprise. Breakfast was great. I enjoyed some interesting architecture and unique shops. I picked up some cool music. I was even amused by my misadventure in Baldwin Park. My major gripes would be the less than ideal behavior by some on the train and lack of better train frequency. I can see why some people would rather take that trip in their car. I would do it again though, and we will keep doing it again, as there are lots of interesting places where transit misadventures can be had. Thanks for watching this inaugural video, but that's all for now. Until next time, I'll see you on that big beautiful freeway.